Well, it's a pleasure to be here to speak to everyone today about this topic, certainly a hot topic. If you've never heard of genomics, you've probably been living in Antarctica or something over the last 5 years. Certainly it's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds and discussions these days, and has been for quite a few years. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I have all the answers, because I don't. I'm going to bring you what the philosophy of CEMEX moving forward is, what it's been in the past. I'm going to present some facts to you. I'm going to present some statistics, and you'll see some things that perhaps you don't know, perhaps you already do, but some things that may surprise you also. Genomics is a tool. Let's not forget that. That's why it was developed. We as a company at CEMEX invested millions, and I mean millions of dollars, into the development of genomics. And now we're seeing the benefit of that. It's a great science, it's a great tool, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It really allows us to be more efficient in our selections, not only from an AI perspective, but also for you on the farm, using it as a tool in your own herd. Just a few details. We still work a lot of the same way as we always did. As sire analysts at CEMEX, we have a team of 6 sire analysts that work across North America, Europe, Australia. We're doing more work in Europe today than we ever have before. The #1 GTPI bull in the world was born in Italy, lives in Hungary. And we're going to see more of that in the future. We have another bull that lives in Hungary that came from England called Denmark Merchandise. Always considered one of the best breeding herds in England, and now we have a young bull from that herd, lives in Hungary, that will be a mating sire for many AI companies. So they are where you find them. We have 2 senior geneticists, very valuable to us, Nicolas Caron and Jacques Chenet, very smart pair of men that we call them the smart people within our organization, and they certainly give us great presentations and great feedback every day of the week. Selections, as I mentioned, do happen where we find them. You see all the countries that we work in, and you'll see some more statistics coming up here. Has my role changed from what it was 10 years ago? A little bit. Do we still buy from the great cow families? Do we still look for the great cows to be bull mothers that have to have the credentials? Do they produce well? Are they classified well? Are they the kind of young bulls that someday we'll be able to market because the pedigree is full, because there's great pictures, because we believe in them, because the world, the clients around the world will believe in that proven bull? There's more accuracy in our selections today. So from that standpoint, I think I do a better job today than what I did 10 years ago, because I have science and I have statistics to help me do my job. My role is different in that I've always needed good communication with the breeders, but now it seems to be even more with matings, with genomic decisions, with genomic results. I often, on the day that genomics comes out, I'll sit in my office waiting for the results to come in. And I've already had 8 emails and phone calls from breeders wondering if we have results yet. It's become a proof day 12 months of the year now for us, and it certainly is different. Over the years, I've been able to foster some great working relationships with breeders. It's a partnership. It will continue to be partnership. We always talk about mutually agreeable sires. When we have our meetings, we have so many sons of this bull coming, so many sons of this bull, and always the biggest number is the mutual agreeable sire list. And that's exactly what it is. The breeders, we don't think we're any smarter than any of you. And we want to make those decisions with you. We want you to use a sire that you're comfortable with, because you will have those females down the road that you're either going to work from or that you're going to have to milk someday. So 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, we don't want you at 5 o'clock in the morning cursing that sire analyst for making you use that bull. More time at the computer, as I mentioned. And the final thing on the list, of course, more negotiations. And I'm not going to tell you that's the favorite part of my job. Pre-genomic era, and I'll go back 5-10 years, 5 years specifically. At CMEX, we sampled over 400 bulls annually. I think at our peak, we sampled about 370 bulls in Canada. At that time, we were sampling close to 50 bulls in the US and 10 or 12 bulls annually in Australia. The cost per bull to get approved is $50,000. That's a number that has increased. It's not significantly more than that, but that hasn't changed. At that time, we're lucky if 1 in 12 bulls made it. So you know that that 12th bull has to make, right out of the gate, 11 times 50,000 to pay for all the ones that didn't make it. And nothing has changed from that, although I think our ratio is better with genomics, and I'll show that in the next slide. The average price per bull that we paid at that time was $500. That's across North America. When I think back to 10, 12 years ago, we didn't offer leases or royalty payments at all. It was cash and cash only. When I talk to colleagues like Gordy Suter and Lowell Lindsay, they remind us of the years when they paid out huge royalties years ago. Bulls in a different era, and we got away from that for many, many years. And we got into buying bulls only for cash. In about 2000, the year 2000, we began to offer leases again. I took a few meetings to convince those veterans that we needed to do this again. We did it slightly different than what it was done in the past and had more control, and that was the biggest issue that Gordon and Lowell had from years past. Today, we have decreased our young sire programs. This past year, in 2012, we will sample around 250 bulls total. 150 in Canada and 100 in the US. So we've decreased that program. So obviously there's some savings there, some money that's been made available. Now all of a sudden we don't have the expense of the incentive programs of those extra 200 bulls that we used to sample. So where does that money go? Does it go into the sire analyst pockets? Unfortunately, no, it does not. Where that goes is into the line 2 slides ago, negotiations. Because bulls cost more today. We understand that, we get that, but that money had to come from somewhere. And through a lot of scientific evaluations, it was determined by our geneticists that that was the suitable number of bulls that CMEX needed to sample to produce a vast number of good proven bulls down the road via the genomic route. We offer flexible payment options today. I mentioned $5,500 5 years ago. We now pay $10,000, up to $10,000 cash for bulls. We give these options to every breeder we work with. We offer an open-end royalty. At this point today, we have no bulls that we're yet paying on through an open-end lease. That day will come in the next 12 months. We only started to offer open-end leases about 3 or 4 years ago. I can assure you, you're going to see some bulls I'm going to present. These bulls, if you own one of them, we're going to be sending you some large checks. Because when you talk about open-end, that's infinity and beyond. For as long as we're going to sell semen on that bull, you will be paid at a 10% of net sales. Now what are net sales? Net sales are exactly what price our semen goes out the back door at CMEX. Whatever price it goes, whether it's to our partners in Canada, whether it's to our distributor in Hungary or US or Czechoslovakia, you receive 10% of that price. Delayed royalties is also another option whereby we give a down payment. This is an extremely popular option. People want cash flow. They want cash. They want more of a down payment. We delay the lease payment until we recuperate that $5,000, and there's a cap lease on that royalty. The bonus scheme is another aspect that we've introduced over the last 2 or 3 years. The bonus scheme rewards the top level bulls. The bulls that are at the top of the game, the top bulls within CMEX's stables that come in within a time period, and they also get compared to the industry bulls, all the bulls within the industry that come in, and payments up to $25,000, a one-time cash payment, a maximum of $25,000 can be paid if you have the top bull within a time frame. The biggest question I get when it comes to genomics, does it work? Well, we're into it a little ways now. There's not an AI company in the world that has a bull with an official progeny proof that was selected with genomics. The proven bulls we see today, yes, we had genomics on them maybe 2-3 years ago, but they weren't selected based on those numbers. They were selected based on parent average. We now have genomics on them. They now have official proofs. In early 2010, the end of 2009, of course, all the bulls that we had in stud had no genomics done on them. We did the genomics on them, and there were 175 of those bulls in our stable that we had sent through our young sire programs that had inferior information, very low levels of genomic LPI. The decision was made to cull every one of those bulls, 175. Done with some trepidation, but enough faith through our geneticists and through our programs that this works. And what it really works good at is identifying which bulls are no damn good. And guess what? All 175 of those bulls have proofs today, and there's not one of them that we wish we still had. That saved us a lot of money to be able to do that, to send those bulls out early, with some risk, but it's very interesting that now you see the results of the proofs of these bulls, and there's not one of them we miss. So it's really good, genomics, at sorting out what we shouldn't buy. And I've bought lots of bulls I shouldn't have bought. Obviously, many of them have proofs now, and they're no good. But today, when we go to a farm, we can go into a pen of calves and know before we step in that pen which one of those bull calves has the best transmitting ability of the group of full sibs. And that's what it is. It's their transmitting ability. How will they breed? I heard Mark mention about how genomic animals look. That's their phenotypic value when we talk about what they look like. So when you walk into a pen of females and you get the genomics back on them, and one of them's 18 for type, one of them's 16 for type, one of them's 12 for type. Well, genomics doesn't work. The one that's 12 on type is the best calf in the pen. Well, it's only 70% reliable, first of all, don't forget that. But second of all, it's a measure of their transmitting ability, their genotypic ability. How will they breed and transmit? It's not a measure of what they look like. Now that gets blown out of the water if you believe in the theory that like begets like. However, through science and through genomics, it is a measure of the transmitting ability. So it's great at identifying which bulls we shouldn't take and which bulls we should. What it's not great at is identifying the top bulls in a group. It will say, yes, you belong in the top 100 young bulls we're going to sample, or the top 100 bulls that we have as a group. Yes, it's great at that. But right now, numero uno is the #1 bull in the world. Will he be the #1 bull with daughters in a progeny proof? I hazard to say he probably won't. There might be 7 or 8 nanoman sons that are better than him. We won't know until they have a progeny proof with daughters in their proof. And this is a good example of that. You can see this list of 10 bulls that were ranked on based on LPI, official LPI with milking daughters in December 2010. Those were our top 10 bulls. This was their rank 6 months previous in the right-hand column. Should every one of these bulls been purchased? Absolutely. They all fell into that top group. Did it identify which one was really the best one in that group? Maybe not as well. You see the only one being Authority that actually came out very close to what his genomic ranking was from 6 months previous. So if I'm going to give you any advice from this, it's a great measure. It's a great measure to show you what the top ones are, but spread your risk. if you're going to use some young genomic bulls, use a few of them. Don't just use the highest one. Because if they're in the top group, they've got as good a chance as any if they're ranked first or if they're ranked 30th. Are they over-evaluated? Yes, every one of them is. Every one of our young bulls and your young females in your herd are over-evaluated. This is not an exact science. But with genomics, they're not nearly as over-evaluated as what they were without genomics. There you see the values here for all traits. You can see that with EBVs, with parent average, without genomics, they were over-evaluated by on the average, over 500 LPI points. With genomics, based on 549 CMAX bulls with proof, you can see they're still over-evaluated as young bulls, but not nearly as much. And that holds all the traits as you go down through. When I go back to here, I didn't put all the slides in that I have. Basically, I went through the mass group of genomic slides, and all the ones I could understand myself and explain are the ones I included here. So all the fancy graphs and everything else, I left those in the computer. But I will tell you this. What we have learned through a lot of research and a lot of genetic information and validation studies, where we backtrack. We look at the bull's official proof, go back and compare him to what he was 12 months earlier with no daughters in his proof, milking daughters. The traits that are the most reliable, when you see 70% reliability on milk and especially fat and protein, you can take that to the bank. Milk, fat, and protein are measured values, we know that. Those are very reliable numbers when you compare them to bulls with actual official proofs. The traits that aren't so reliable are the rest of them, all the rest of them. The best of all the rest would be mammary system. It's not 70%. It might be closer to 60 or maybe low 60s. Foot and leg, an area, a reliability area that's slightly lower than mammary. Probably the lowest of all the type traits when you talk about reliability based on validation studies. And of course the health traits. We've always known the health traits have less reliability than the rest of the traits. And that holds true in genomics as well. So if you see 70% reliable printed on some of the health traits, don't believe it. It's not that high in actual observed observations. But it's much better than without genomics. So we talked about the young sire programs. We feel at CMAX that is something moving into 2013 and beyond that is extremely, extremely important. Young sire programs, a structured young sire program where you can have a group of daughters come into milk, go into a bull's proof, and bring that reliability from 70% or below, as you just heard, to close to 100. That's where the real value is right there. And we feel very strongly in this, and we feel very strongly about many of our young sire programs across Canada and also in the US. So you've seen the ratio. I said it has improved. 1 bull out of 7 now is kept as opposed to 1 in 12. So our ratio has improved with genomics, and now we genomic test many, many young bulls. And it becomes more important to test a lot of bulls than it does to sample a lot of bulls. Because if we sample the right kind, the best ones, then we don't need to throw as many darts at the dartboard, if you will. Every bull will obtain a genomic proof in both countries, in Canada and the US. In 2009 at CMAX, and I'm talking just Holsteins, we did genomic testing on 1,350 young bulls. And there you see the numbers grow to expand exponentially over the last 2 years. The prediction for 2012 is that we will genomic test close to 4,000 bulls at CMAX. But we won't end up buying nearly as many bulls because our young sire programs aren't as high. So my role now becomes someone that has to say no a lot. However, at the end of the day, if it allows us to buy the right bulls, then that's a major, major accomplishment. Here's how they broke out. Those 2,900 bulls, that's 2,900 Holsteins, 170 jerseys, genomic tested as well. The jerseys, we do genomic test every one of them as well. However, the reliabilities aren't quite as high because we don't have the database on the jerseys to have the reliabilities quite as high, but still much higher than traditional parent averages. So there you see how it breaks out. I mentioned Europe. You can see we test just as many males from Europe as we did from the United States last year. Very interesting. In fact, that is an area we want to improve, is to test more bulls in the U.S. Moving forward into the next year. Where that will change this pie structure a year from now, I'm not sure. There's still only 100% in a pie, but I would expect that the U.S. will grab a little from each of Europe and Canada. Number of planned matings. We try to keep a constant number of planned matings in motion. It helps us to plan the young sire program. We need to know how many bulls we'll have moving forward. And that's the next line is a figure that's really changed in the last 2 years. Number of heifers that are contracted. You heard Mark mention to Japan, 50% heifers, 50% cows. Funny thing, that's exactly the same kind of figures we have right here. As we increase the genetic interval, as we increase the generation interval of these animals to get these better bulls, we tend to be working with more and more heifers. And quite frankly, I was at a great herd in Wisconsin last week that I've done a lot of business with for many years and continue to. They now are flushing very, very few cows. Most of their flushing is done on heifers today. And that's a move in the last 3 months. I tried to contract 2 or 3 of the cows, was successful in doing so, but only on the mating that they were carrying themselves as a pregnancy. And there you see another figure that's drastic change over the last 12 months. The percent of high genomic young sires used as mating sires in planned matings. Is this a little scary? I suppose it is. It's quite a bit different than I would have presented here 2 years ago, maybe even 12 months ago. However, it's a function of us having better and better young bulls to use in the system. But what we always have to keep in mind is that they are only 70% reliable, once again. So we use the same philosophy as I suggest you use in your herds. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Instead of using the best man-o-man son, use 10 or 12 of them. Instead of using the best snowman son, use 10 or 12 of them. Or however big your herd is, accordingly, use a good amount of them. And a lot of the herds that I deal with, they want to use the high genomic young sires. They understand through simple mathematics that if you breed a high heifer to a high young bull, you're going to get a higher parent average when that calf is born. Yes, that's true. But there's no guarantee that that will yield the highest offspring. We see some high females, some high males that came from just moderate numbered animals. So that's why we are testing a lot of bulls, because you just never know where they may come from. I was just told at lunchtime about a young bull that came 600 LPI points above, or TPI points, excuse me, above his parent average. Now that's quite a climb, and that can happen. It happens rarely, but when it does, you're glad you genomic tested that bull or that female. A few of the results, I'll just go through this quick. I think for any of you on our Young Sire program or that see the sheets, you'll have seen in the last 12 months an increase in the numbers, in the LPI numbers, in the type numbers. We've really increased that side of things, the bulls we bring into stud. With the major selection we have by testing many bulls, we have the ability to bring in some top young bulls. There's the numbers you see. We've really grown our numbers in the U.S. I think 2 years ago we had 1 bull in the top 100 in the U.S. And this slide isn't totally up to date. I think this was done last fall. But last fall, these were the numbers of the top 100 bulls in both Canada and the U.S. As I said, it's not current. I don't have a current slide, but it's probably 4 months, 5 months old. So we've really increased on the TPI side of things. As I said, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we had 1 bull in the top 100, and he might have been 97th. And today we have 21, maybe today it's 19, or maybe 20 but we have really increased on that side of things. We've had some bulls be used as heavy-duty mating sires, and certainly that allows us the opportunity moving forward to have many great sons of some of these good young bulls. And these are the numbers, genomic trends again to be tested in the U.S. You can see how we've really risen our numbers, and especially down in the productive life column, and especially in the net merit column as well. And here we see trends in Canada, what were sampled the last 3 years, and what is allocated to be sampled this coming year. So an average above 2,500 LPI for the, it won't be 150 bulls, but probably half of that right now. Those are the levels. Right now I can tell you the young bulls that we're accepting, we'll have a proof run next week, a genomic proof run. Our levels for LPI acceptance will probably be close to 2,600 and probably close to 2,250 TPI. So we certainly have grown those numbers, and certainly the selection intensity has increased. Genomics summary. My boss uses this slide all the time, Pierre Laliberte. When he first presented this slide, he wrote this line: the biggest change in the AI industry since frozen semen. At the time, I laughed. I thought, come on, it's not that big, is it? Yeah, he's right. It is the biggest change in the AI industry since frozen semen. It's really changed a lot of things, as we've alluded to, as you've heard. We as a company have had to take a close look at all of our practices, everything from housing to semen production to marketing to sampling programs. And we've done a major overhaul of many, as any good business needs to do, to take a look and adapt to what's happening in the marketplace. And of course, the main advantage to genomics is to decide which bulls go into the young sire program. We're fortunate in that we have young sire programs in Canada and the US. When we genomic test a bull for any of you, that bull has an option to go into 2 different programs. So we can select that bull based on GLPI, based on GTPI. And I can assure you that allows us to test some bulls that maybe other studs, their AI companies, may not be interested in, and allows you the opportunity to sell us a bull you may not have sold. And again, the GPA, or the genomic parent average accuracy, is midway between parent average and that actual daughter proof. Remember that. It's halfway. It's not as good, but it's much better than it used to be, is the basic premise of that line. So now some statistics. These are current 2011, fairly up-to-date statistics. Why do you want to sell a bull to CMEX in 2013? Do I know what's going to happen when 2013 comes? No, I do not. But what I do know is that now any one of you, when you get a bull calf born, unlike the last 5 years or 4.5 years, you've not been able to test that bull unless you go through one of the major AI companies. There's a reason for that, and most of you know that. I talked about our investments, and that was just a protection of the investment that was done. But to come April 1st, 2013, when everyone is able to test their own bulls, I hope we are your choice of an AI company to market that bull, to put him through a young sire program, which I think is so important. Because at the end of the day, and you'll see slides coming up here, the proven sire is still the best way for anybody, including us or any other AI company, to make money and make a business run. Are we a big company? I'd say in the big scheme of things, we're a fairly major company. We spend a lot of time growing the company. You can see here, almost 9.5 million total doses sold in the past 2011. Of that, almost 9 million of it conventional semen, and 394,000 doses of sex semen, which is something that's really grown in our company over the last few years. There's still a major demand for sex semen. We as a company have, I believe, the last count, we have 10 sexing machines working around the clock at Bovatech, at l'Alliance Bovatech, which is our research lab in Quebec. And we have a lot of demand for sex semen. So if you sell a bull to us, there is a good chance someday, if the demand is there, that his semen will be sold as sex semen. And if you're on a lease with us or a royalty, that semen gets sold for more money. That semen costs more to produce, and obviously it goes out the back door of Cemex at a higher rate, and you get still 10% of that. Now here's the staggering figures here. We all think the young sires are the way of the world, that they're going to take over the world. Well, guess what? There's only one number one. There's only one numero uno. There's only one of these bulls that can produce not near enough to keep up with the demand when you're that high. The rest of them, there is some demand, but when they have the most demand is when they make the least amount of semen. These bulls are young. I had a breeder ask me in Europe recently, well, the young bulls make a lot more semen than the older bulls, don't they? I reminded them, well, I won't tell you what I reminded them. It's the young bull, old bull thing. So, but the fact of the matter is, in our company, and I'm speaking for Cemex here, the proven bull still reigns supreme. He is the breadwinner, the proven bull. And we sold, you can see here, 78% of our total sales were from proven sires. We sell, in an upcoming slide, you'll see how many countries we sell in, and how many different countries that we put that semen into. Genomics are the young sires, are the genomic young sires. You can see the number there, 7%. 9% of that is from the young sire program, semen sold. So bulls that just go through our young sire program. We never sell a dose of it outside of the young sire program. I shouldn't say never, but these are generally the bulls that you'll see day to day on your young sire flyers. And then 443 doses of unproven semen sold. So I'm going to call these bulls that are on the shelf, bulls that are yet to have a proof. They could there could be high genomic bulls that are in demand in other countries, but they have yet to have a daughter within their proofs. So this past year we sold to 88 countries, a 25% increase in new markets, 45% increase in our existing markets. We had a good year. Those are the kind of things that we bring to you. I think our distributorship around the world can rank with any AI company. We have great distributors around the world. Some people have said to me in the past, well, you don't have any risk. The breeders buy all the females. We have all the investment. Well, this slide here shows you the investment we have. We have investment in people. We have investment in distributorships that have cost millions and millions of dollars to set up around the world. When your bull is number one, you don't sell that semen, you deliver it. When a bull is number 50, that's when you need the international sales force to sell that bull for you, whether he's proven or whether he's a high genomic young sire. And most of these countries, these 88 countries, they, number one, can't accept a genomic young sire, or they don't want a young sire. We sell to many traditional markets around the world that really aren't at the stage yet where they're willing to accept these young sires. They appreciate that high reliability, and I think that will continue to be the way well past 2013. These are the countries that are the top countries by doses. There you see the US, Brazil, some countries maybe you don't think of. Turkey, who knew? But we sell a lot of semen to Turkey. It may not be worth a lot, but 10% of something is still better than 10% of nothing. Argentina, Mexico, Italy, China, UK, Russia. Top 10 countries of doses sold around the world. And Poland. Interesting. Dollars, a little bit of a different list. A couple of the same countries at the top. US, still our biggest country for both dollars and doses by quite a bit. And we're a small player in the US. We are not 10% market share in the US. But that is the goal. We will be someday. And if we get to that, we'll be able to sell this. They'll still continue to be at the top of the list and will be for a long, long time. United Kingdom, always been a strong market. Japan is a great market. If you own a bull with us that's on an open-end lease and Japan likes them, you're going to like the checks you're going to get from us. And you can ask Louis Patenaude how he likes going to the mailbox and picking up our checks. He's been accepting leases from us now since the onset, and you know his success rate. They're all capped leases, and pretty much all of them have capped them out to this point. So it can be very lucrative, and we love sending those checks. We really do. And I think it's a great thing that we've done. But imagine a lot of those bulls once they become an open-end lease, which all Louis are now. So if his success continues for the next bunch of years, he might just build a building around his mailbox so he can just sit there. We do pay out a couple times a year. In June and January is when it's done. It's when they're calculated. Checks normally get sent out in early July and early February. And I can tell you, this last run, the dollar value of the checks we sent out was mind-boggling. You could buy most nice farms if you wanted for the number of the dollars that we paid out to breeders on leases. And that was, I was very happy to hear that. I think there's people sitting in this room that have received some nice checks from us, and I hope that continues. And certainly I think if we continue to sell and grow our business like we are, that will continue. So, securing future genetics. Do I know what's going to happen once again? No. I don't know. But I sure hope we've set up some things. I hope we've been good to you in the past and good to the breeders we've worked with. We don't own females. We have absolutely no interest in owning females. There are arguments to that. There are people that think we will, that think we should. But I can assure you, if I have anything to do with it, it's not going to happen. We would rather partner with you. Let us do what we do well, and you do what you do well. And I think in any business, once you start to go outside your comfort zone, that's when you lose success. So that is our mantra going forward into 2013. Let us do the work for you. Let us send you envelopes with checks in them, not bills. We are talking to many breeders. We've continued to talk to many breeders. We have different options that are available, as you've seen. We have some other things we're working on that I'm not at a position to talk about at this time. But we've had some preliminary discussions with some of our major bull suppliers, and I can tell you that that we have some things in place that I think are going to secure a nice amount of bulls to continue coming to CMEX. Of course, when you can genomic test your own bulls, we'll gladly look at the results of what you get. And if they fall into the area where we think that we can use them and they can be part of our program,